Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hello, good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Elisa Guajardo-Carothers, and I'm here to talk about my new book, Michael's Teardrop. And I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek. I'm going to read part of chapter 3 of my book. It's kind of got a little romance in it, which is definitely beyond my comfort zone because the first book I wrote had no romance in it at all. So here we go. Lucifer smirked as he lay lazily next to Lily. Every word of the summons had been communicated to him. He had a big bag full of tricks. One of them was a rogue pixie trying to rid heaven of Serafina. Her name was Vila. The small double agent was spying on the summons as it took place. Once Hasatan, or Lucifer, heard Michael announce his plans, he simply jut his chin. If only his younger sibling had known how eager Lily was to leave Adam. The devil implemented his second step quite easily by impregnating Lily. Shortly after he fell, Lucifer had gifted himself with male parts. Satan's new wife was now asleep inside one of his midnight wings. Hasatan enjoyed every bit of Lily's sexual wrestling. She had preferred to be the dominant one, riding Lucifer, something God never would have permitted her to do with Adam. Lucifer had reveled in her demanding ways. He found it charming. Lily gladly permitted Lucifer to suckle her virgin breasts and lap between her curvy legs. They performed every God-forbidden act she could think of. The woman, in God's opinion, was damaged goods, and Adam was none the wiser. The man was gathering fruit for nourishment while the tryst had occurred. "Wake up, Lily," Satan said. The woman opened her sleepy eyelids, gazing up at Hasatan. "I love you more than I ever loved Adam, sweet Lucifer. You know how to make me feel nice. Also, you do not mind me telling you what to do. Not to mention, you are much more pleasing to look at." She swooned with a coy smile, kissing him sensually while biting his lower lip. The devil grinned. "God outdid himself when he made you, Lily. You are nothing like that crude man, and maybe if he'd created you first, I would have bowed." "No," she said, placing a finger to his lips. "We are equals, my dear."
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Today, we have the amazing Elisa with us that she gave us a sneak peek of her new book that we're excited. Congratulations, madam.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's warm in Florida. It's already getting really hot. Yeah.
I understand. It's burning in Texas, so I can relate to that.
Okay, yeah, Texas is just as hot.
So let's get started. I have questions. Tell us a little about your book. What is it about? What is the premise?
Okay, so Michael's Teardrop came about quite a few years after I wrote my first book, which was also fantasy fiction with kind of some religious overtones to it. And the first book was called, BC and AD, Here is BS, Before Satan. And that book was really about Lucifer before he fell, when Lucifer was still a good angel. A lot of people know about the devil, obviously, but they don't know that he used to be really good before he fell. So that book ended with Michael kicking out Lucifer, and in that book, Michael was the younger brother, and he actually looked up to Lucifer. Lucifer was like a father figure to Michael, so it was really hard for him to kick out his older brother. So Michael's Teardrop picks up on where the first book left off, except Michael's now grown up, and he is now taking his new position very seriously, and he knows he has to protect not only the earth from his brother Lucifer, but also his siblings, which are the angels, and of course his father, God. So it basically picks off, but it's also a book that stands on itself. You can easily read Michael's Teardrop without having read the first one. It's not like some books where if you don't read one, you're confused. I've had several people read Michael's Teardrop. They haven't read the first one yet, and now they're interested to read the first one.
Where did this idea come from? Because it's very unique. You have fantasy. You also have a very overtone of religion. Yes. From a very different perspective. Where did you get this from?
Yes, the really religious people have called me a very sacrilegious writer, which does not surprise me. but that is not my intention. When I first wrote my first book, it was actually a big family argument that there happened. I come from a big Latino Jewish family, Christian as well. There was just a big family blow up. I came home devastated. And I started to journal, just my feelings, how I was sad. I was worried about my mom, worried about dad, worried about my siblings. And I started to think, what if God, because I grew up Roman Catholic, what if his angels were our brothers and sisters? And what if when they kicked out the devil, some of them were sad about it? It got this idea in my head, and I just started to journal it. And then after things started to calm down in my family, one of my sisters called me, and I started to read her some of what I'd written. And she's like, you got to publish that. And I said, no, I can't publish this because it's about our family. It's just I'm using the angels as us. I'm not going to say who represents who in the book because then I'll have my family mad at me. But yeah. So the first book came out, and people that knew me and knew my family, they knew what I was going at right away. But the people that didn't, they thought that I was disgracing God, disgracing the angels. But really, a lot of people liked it. They said it was a fun read. And so they were like, write a second one, write a second one. In the first book, and I'm just mentioning it a lot because it really kicks off Michael's teardrop. In the first book, Michael is the only angel that cries for Lucifer. He's the only one. And that's because in the first book, Lucifer, like I said, he's a great guy. He's a great angel. It's not until the very end, and it's almost 600 pages, that Lucifer falls. So Michael's the only one that cries for the devil, and it has a price. That teardrop turns into a beautiful female angel. And Michael ends up falling in love with that angel in the second book. Well, Lucifer doesn't like that in the second book because even though he still hates Michael, he once really loved him. It's almost like he wants to take away the love his brother now has, Michael's love, Serafina, to really hurt Michael and break his heart because he knows if he does that, it's going to kind of make Michael plummet as well. Because the theme in the second book is that there is no crying allowed in heaven. Lucifer figures if I can get his sweetheart to fall, I can get him to fall because he'll cry. And once I get him to fall, then I'm on the top of the world. Of course, there's other things that go into it. I was inspired by the Apocrypha, which are the forbidden books of the Bible. The book of Enoch, we are also not supposed to read that book. I am one of those people that you tell me not to read something, I like to read it, because I want to find out what. And they're actually really interesting books. I don't see why they didn't get left in the Bible. So they really inspired my writing. I had a priest help me edit Michael's Teardrop. I also had a rabbi help me edit it. And it was funny because the priest actually wanted more romance put into the book, which I was like, I don't want to go there, that's not my thing. And he's like, no, you need some seduction going on in there. And
you are talking about the devil, so that's kind of
yes.
He has the point. There has to be a little bit of that seduction if you're talking about the devil. Yes, I see that.
Of course, his wife is mentioned. She's not mentioned in the original Bible, and that is Lilith. In Michael's Teardrop, we start off calling her Lily because she was not initially bad. She was the first Eve, which a lot of people don't know that. The devil seduces her. And, I won't talk too much about that, so I want people to read the book and figure out how he does it. But one thing a lot of people don't know about the devil, and I still a believer, I don't like to label myself as a Christian or Protestant because I have Jewish in me. So a lot of time I just tell people I'm a Jew for Jesus or Yeshua, But a lot of people don't know is that the devil is a very good-looking creature. He doesn't have horns and a tail. He's actually very beautiful, and that's how he, continues to make people fall into temptation. So I really incorporated that into both books, that even though he has fallen, he is still very attractive. So it's very easy to see how he would have seduced Lily, who then became Lilith.
How much research did you have to do for your books? Because you have so much information coming from so many different places.
Yeah, okay, well, I graduated from high school in 1995 from Adrian, Michigan, and my plans were to become a famous actress. And I did do that, and I kind of burned out on it really quick. It's a hard life to be an actress. I kind of do it as a hobby now, do little bit parts here and there. But after I decided not to do that, I really wanted to go into religious life, so I became a nun for 3 years, and I was with the Franciscans of Sylvania. Then I wanted to be even stricter. I wanted to be in a monastery. The problem there was I kept falling asleep because they'd wake you up at 3 a.m, and you would go to bed like at 11:30 at night. So anyways, the mother said to me, we really love you. We want you to stay, but before you take your final vows, because at that point I was like a novice, before you take your final vows, we want you to go on a date, because I really never dated. I was really just a loner in high school. I'm not going to lie. I really had this image of the perfect man in my eyes, and I didn't ever see him in high school, Who can get more perfect than Jesus, right? Decided to become a nun, and then they said to me, you got to go on a date or something. So I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but I'll do it because you told me. And I ended up going to a singles dance where I ended up, long story short, met my future husband. He was Lutheran, kind of fell away from Catholicism for a while. Then he and I both wanted to do something different when we found Messianic Judaism. So that's where like the Hebrew words come in a lot to both books. You'll see a lot of Hebrew words scattered. There's an index at both books, so you can flip to the back and look up what the terms mean. A lot of people were like, well, why did you do that? And I did it because I wanted to connect the Judeo part to the Christian part. I think especially today, there's so much hate today. I really wanted people to get educated that, yes, Jesus is God and Jesus is this, but Jesus was a Jew. We have to remember that. And, I've been to Israel 5 times. That was something I did also to research this book. Going again, hopefully next year after the COVID's gone, I'm really getting to know the Jewish people, why some of them are so hostile towards Christians. I really found out that Jews don't know that we know that Jesus is Jewish, and a lot of them think that Jesus was white. And so I get to talk to like, Jesus, Yeshua, he was one of you. Why you guys hate him so much? He was? They don't know. That's another part of the reason I incorporated some of the Hebrew lore into both books. And I think it's nice because I've had some Jewish people that don't even believe in Jesus have read the books and they've loved them. The book's for everybody, And like I said, even though the really strict religious people are like, oh, we don't like that, that's not good. Just to give you an example, I had one woman, I'm not going to say her name, but she was a sweet woman anyway, because, I try to respect everyone's beliefs. But she was pagan, and she read my books, and she is now a Christian believer. And she's never read the Bible, but she's read my books. And just reading my books, she said, it really tugged at her heart, and it made her want to accept Jesus as your Savior. So, I was like, wow, thank you. That's awesome. Someone that never read the Bible read my books, and they were just really wanting to know more after it. So it's kind of cool.
You have such an interesting background, and you have
experienced.
You do, and you have experienced religion from all sorts of different sides. So you're looking at an actress turns nun, and you're going,
yeah.
I never seen that before. You got me there. I was like, oh wow, that is amazing. Because you have seen different things from different perspectives. You have seen the world from different eyes.
Yes.
So to bring this book to life is exciting because you're not doing it from a perspective of, I'm going to trash religion. That's not the intent.
Right. Which some people took it that way. And I was like, you guys, you're saying that you don't know I was a nun for 3 years. I was getting whacked with the spoons and the rulers. I have no hostility. Actually, I still am friends with the nuns, and they sold a lot of my first book in their religious bookshop. They can't wait to receive copies of this second book. One of the angels, Gabriel, she's a teacher. She has the personality of one of my dearest friends, and her name is Sister Kate. And she felt very humbled and honored that I still included her. Father Tom felt very honored, and he said I could say his name, so shout out to you, Father Thomas Helfrich, if you're listening. Did a lot of help with the editing of Michael's Teardrop and was very touched when I told him I used a little bit of his personality with forming God's character, because when he was my priest, he was just always at me, you need to stop reading the Bible so much, he'd tell me, because Catholics aren't supposed to read the Bible. And I'd say, why not? I like to read. So I've known both worlds, I'll say that.
I'm excited because you bring a different perspective. I'm also excited that the church as a whole has changed the mind frame of reading the Bible. I like the perspective that you bring to it, that anybody's included and is not judgmental, if that makes any sense. I love the family part of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I got a shout out to the bookstore that's selling both books. It's called the Paperback Exchange here in Florida. I was really surprised that it reached out to the LGBTQ community. I didn't even think about that, because as angels don't have a gender. They can be male or female, and that really picked up with the LGBTQ community. I don't mind that, because I want everybody, like you said, to read this, and I believe that the Lord loves everybody. I have a Facebook page up called Elisa's Earth Angels, where anybody can go on and it's all about angelic information. I've already had some people say I'm a witch because I got stuff up there about crystals, and I'm like, no. I sometimes I'll have to do a live. I'm like, listen, I'm not a witch, but even if somebody is, why do people have to label? It really bothers me. That's why I don't like to be labeled as a Christian, because it's just so many Christians are so judgmental. And that's not to bash anybody, because my whole family is Christian. I just feel like Rodney King sometimes. Why can't we all just get along?
Every once in a while, I think we're missing that element of it. And I think one of the strangest things that we talk, especially to Christian, the one thing Christianity has is you're not supposed to judge.
Exactly.
If
Yes.
Jesus didn't judge, he didn't give me the power to start judging. So why do I have to? And sometimes we forget.
The thing is, people don't, they'll say, well, how do you know this angel's doing that? And I said, a lot of people don't know this too. God still loves the devil. Now, the devil doesn't work for God anymore, but he still loves him, and it's going to break his heart when he puts him into the pit, because I do believe in that. That's in the Bible. That's going to happen someday. I get into my head, like, he is so patient and so loving that he wants everybody to come to him. I'm like, I got to remember, he still loves that old devil. I mean, how can he love somebody that evil? But he does. He still loves Lucifer. And you got these righteous angels like Michael and Raphael that are just, fighting him every day. Yet at the same time, they want to bash him in. God says, don't do that. He's your brother. That's my job. And I know when I'm going to do it. We got to have that godlike attitude as people. Yeah, there's people that bother me. There's people that get on my nerves. But who am I to judge them? I'm not God. Eventually, he's going to deal with them. So why not, until that time happens, let's just get along and be friends. Let's just be cool with each other and respect one another's beliefs. If we just fight, look what's happening now. It's just going to get worse and worse.
I think Gandhi said it best. He said, an eye for an eye just leaves the world blind.
It does. So, it really does.
we're no longer.
We wouldn't have no teeth.
Yeah. At this point in time, we're no longer in the Old Testament times. We don't have to go there. We don't have to fight for food, believe it or not. So I love the messages that you're bringing. I love the family values that you're bringing and the reality of it. We don't question those things. We just kind of take it for what it is.
A lot of times people, they'll put God in a box is what they do, especially with religion. And I respect every kind. One of the reasons I don't want to be considered Catholic or Lutheran or whatever is because it really is so much of putting God in a box. And if he's not in your box, it's like my husband used to be Lutheran and I used to be Catholic. We were constantly kind of butting heads. I'm like, you know what? Let's become something where we both can agree on. Whatever religion you are, I just encourage you, please don't put God in a box, because he's not in a box. He said in the Bible, when they wanted to build a temple, he said, I don't need a house. The whole world is my house. Try to be a little more loving, because, especially when you judge people, you don't walk in that person's shoes. You don't know what it's like to be of a different ethnicity, to question your sexuality. You don't know the hurt they're feeling, but Jesus does. Jesus would walk among those people today. So you really have to have the heart of Christ, especially in these times, in these days that we're living in. And that's the message I want to get out there to people. But I want them to read a good book too.
Hey, you want a good story that actually blends all these things together.
It does.
So who is your target audience? Who are you looking for to reach with this book?
Well, Michael's Teardrop is it's a PG-13. So, the first book really went over well with a lot of young adults. The biggest compliment I got was it reminded them a lot of C.S. Lewis writing. But this one, Michael's Teardrop, has really gone over well, I'd say, with the 13 and plus. I've had people in their 50s come to me and say, it was a great book. It was just the right amount of romance. There's no erotica in it, but there's hints. I think you read here the hints of it. There's a little love situation. I call it a gender-friendly love triangle between Michael, Serafina, and Michael's best friend, Ragwell. And Ragwell he's like a male type angel, because the angels don't really have gender, but they look more male or more female. And here's this beautiful male-looking angel that he feels like he has feelings for Michael, and Michael likes him as a friend, but he's in love with Serafina. I remember being in high school and having friends that were attracted to someone of the same sex, but that person didn't feel the same way towards them, but they wanted to keep them as a friend. So I did that in a nice, clean way. There's nothing dirty about it. Friend, he even tells him in the book, I'm always going to love you as my friend, but I love her. And he's like, you know what? I respect that, and I love you more because of that. This book, I really can just hit a wide variety. It's like, as long as it's 13 and up, because I do think there's some things in there that I wouldn't want a little kid to read. But I would say 13 and over, yeah.
That's a good demographic, and it opens it
Yeah,
up to different things. You are touching on some things that a lot of the times we just kind of brush off very quickly and we
yeah,
take
yeah.
for granted. So that's kind of exciting. With your diverse background and everything you have done, when did you start writing?
I did not start writing until I think it was 2016, but I always was a journaler. I was constantly journaling, and I took advanced English courses when I was in high school, and then I took some English courses out of high school. I only had a 2-year scholarship, and I could not afford to pay for 4 years of college, but I had enough scholarship money to go for 2 years. So I took these really advanced English courses, read some great authors. I had this teacher, I wish I could remember her name, but she was so tough. I thought for sure I was going to fail her class because she was always criticizing my writing and just constantly writing me. Finally, I turned in my final exam and I was terrified. I got an A++, and she wrote a note and said, if in your life you never write a book, the world will have a great tragedy. And that really inspired me to, like, I got to write a book someday. And now I got 2 out.
So, what are some of the lessons you have learned so far as a writer? Because you have 2 books out, you have different experiences with different publishing house. What have you learned?
Some advice I would give to people that want to start writing is don't go with a vanity press, because that was a mistake I made the first time. I'm not going to call their name on it because they did do some good things for me. I mean, they definitely promoted the heck out of me, but I really didn't get any royalties from it. But I was glad that the book got out there. The first book has been read a lot, and it got good feedback, good and bad. I would really encourage you, if you're first time writing, self-publish your first book. Now, you're going to get a lot of people that say, no, you need the promote. I would really encourage self-publishing because I lost a lot of money with the vanity press publishing the first book. So please be careful, when you publish your first book. The other thing I would recommend is find friends and family that'll help you edit, because I'm blessed. I didn't even know until I wrote this second book. I made friends with another author, and she was more than happy to help me edit it. And then I thought, who else do I know? I was like, okay, why not ask this priest, Father Tom? He was an English teacher for 30 years. Reached out to him, will you help me edit? Then my sister's like, well, I can help you edit. She's works for General Motors. Her name's Alma Crossley. She's also a professional writer and editor for a magazine. So, find, before you go and, look for an editor that's going to charge you an arm and a leg, look for family and friends that they won't charge you, or maybe you give them a little bit to be nice. That's what I did. Just do that and self-publish your first book.
I like the advice of finding a village. And usually at other times,
Yes,
we try to do it by ourselves.
it is. It is.
What is your favorite book? Do you have a favorite book?
I have a favorite book. Gosh, one of my favorite books, aside from the Bible, of course, would probably be On Watership Down by Richard Adams. I love animals, and one of my favorites is rabbits. And I remember when I read that book, I just could not put it down. And I've read it so many times. The rabbits, they're like people in that book. They have their own personalities. They're going through hardships. And I mean, I was crying when I was reading. I was like, oh my gosh, these poor bunnies. But when I read Watership Down, I was like, it just really opened my mind. Like, I was like, wow, animals, maybe they really do, think like this or whatever. So to this day, I love that book. It's a remarkable book. And
do you have an author that has inspired your writing?
gosh, that's a good question. Well, definitely probably Richard Adams, who wrote Watership Down. I like Mercedes Lackey a lot because she does a lot of the fantasy. I read a lot of her books in high school, and I really am a big fantasy junkie. I don't like reading about vampires or werewolves or anything, but Mercedes Lackey, she had a lot of this, like the magicians and the mages, and she had the talking white horses. And that was really, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, J.K. Rowling. So when I went to write my angel books, I was like, how can I make like a Christian Harry Potter type of thing? The angels, they'll fight. They don't have spells, but they have their angelic white magic. Those were some of the ones that really inspired me, because those are the ones that I couldn't put down, like Lord of the Rings, that whole series, the J.K. Rowling, the Richard Adams. It's just like almost a hodgepodge, because as you can tell, for a religious person, I don't discriminate. The only thing I do not read is erotica.
I like the fact that you're going from one genre to another. Like you get to pick them, you kind of connect with them, and you find something in all of them. It's kind of exciting, because I was going to ask you.
I love
if you
Greek
had
mythology too. Greek mythology is awesome. I incorporated some of that, and it's funny because when I read the book of Enoch, I found out that the Greek gods were real because they were Nephilim, which were angel-human hybrids. So that's also incorporated into my second book a little bit. I love Greek mythology. I just love the stories. Like one of my favorite stories is Narcissus, the guy that kept looking at himself and then turned into a plant. Hercules, Clash of the Titans, all this stuff. Always have loved all those things.
I was going to ask you if you have a favorite genre, but yours just crossed the border across. So I don't think you have one.
I really don't. I'm not a big reader of things that are true. So I'm always heading towards fiction, fantasy, sci-fi. Once in a while, I'll read something. Like I had a friend, Greg Sabat. He is a Jewish believer in Jesus, and he wrote a book, and I did like it. It was his testimony and how he came to know Jesus. And I read it for him, and it was good. But I really like to stick to fantasy because I know this world. I want to know the magical world. I really do believe there's other worlds and dimensions out there. We only use a small part of our brain. A lot of Christians get at me about that too, but I really do believe in unicorns and mermaids. That might sound crazy to some people, but this world is so big and this universe is so big. I think Ronald Reagan once said, if we were to think we were the only people in the universe, we'd be pretty egotistic. I do think there's life on other planets and stuff. There's so much. It's just way too big. We got to keep an open mind about it.
And it keeps expanding. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
Every time they turn a telescope, it's like, oh, look, here's another galaxy. You're
like, I know, right?
Where did that come from?
Exactly.
So every time we're looking at it, everything continues to expand and the world continues to grow.
It does.
So I hope that there's other life out there because I agree we're the only things in this world. It's like, it's kind of scary. It might be a little intimidating.
It'd be a little egotistic to think we were the only.
Just a little. So it is exciting to hear. So I'm kind of looking forward to where humanity is going to go because I think we have to evolve. We just can't stay still. That's not the nature of the universe. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Sure.
Really easy, really fun. Do not think too hard on these, please. So we're going to go quickly through it. Let's see what we do. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Ebooks or print?
Print all the time. Need a good book.
Pop music or classical?
Classical.
If you could be any animal, fiction or real, what would you be?
Any animal. I would be a fat, lazy house cat. Ooh. They got it made.
I'm looking at mine right now and I'm like,
the cat has it made.
If you can find any vehicle that would describe your personality, what would it be?
Gosh, I don't know too much about cars. A fast car, any kind of fast sports car. Okay. Like maybe a Corvette.
Nice. For a person who doesn't know much about cars, that's a good one to pick. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty good. I am impressed. Tell us, madam, where can we find you? Where does our listeners can find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook at Elisa Guajardo-Carothers, author. You can find me on Elisa's Earth Angels on Facebook, and that is a reading group. And you can also sign up for my weekly newsletter there at the About section. You can find me on Facebook under my pseudonym, which is Elisa Cartmeek, and that's Cartmeek. And of course, you can find me on the Amazon where you can find my books. You can follow me on Amazon. You can find Michael's Teardrop there in the first book. And you can also find me on IMDb Pro as the actress Elisa M. Guajardo.
I'm so happy you joined us. I'm excited about this book. I like the take you're going with it. It's exciting.
I appreciate you interviewing me too.
Hey, congratulations. So before we go, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Well, my only closing remarks is when you pick up a book, make sure you always read the author has a note, because I always do leave an opening note or epilogue, and always keep an open mind when you read a book. And if you don't think the book is going to be for you, don't read it.
That is a beautiful advice. I like that. There's a book for everybody. Don't force yourself into books.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure and so much fun. Thank you.
It was fun. Thank you. It's the first time I did this. That was awesome.
Oh, awesome. And to our listeners, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Stay tuned next week for another incredible episode. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.